Well, good morning. My name is Dina and this is Nick, and we are Naturalist Farmstead. Just before we get started, I just want to let you know I am filming this presentation. Not for anything creepy, it's just this will be up on our website, so if you're jotting down notes and you don't get everything, it'll be available on our website in the next couple weeks. But we are Naturalist Farmstead, and we are, oh, it's not clicking now. Oh, you made me in charge of the button. Ah, it worked. Or was that you? I can't tell. Okay. So we're a small education-focused regenerative farm about 50 miles north of the metro. And before we get into what exactly that is, we're going to give you a little bit of backstory on the two of us. Nick and I were both wildlife majors at the University of Stevens Point, and our professors all told us, like, you're never going to get a job in wildlife, and if you do, you're never going to make enough to survive. We didn't listen. And we ended up in northern Wisconsin. Nick was working for the Forest Service, and I was working for Trees for Tomorrow. And we started getting really excited about growing our own food. We kind of got bit by the homesteading movement and the reducing the food miles that we have and having a better connection with our food. I grew up gardening with my mom. Nick, not really. Come on in, I won't bite, I promise. I won't bite at all.
Which section is this?
Naturalist Farmstead.
Regenerative. Yes. Oh.
And, oh, where was I? Anyway, so we were getting, there we go. I grew up in the garden with my mom, digging and finding worms and ladybugs, and Nick grew up in the cities here. And we were having our first son, and we were like, oh my gosh, what the heck am I going to put in this little human's body? And we kind of had this realm of wanting to do good things for our family and then wanting to do good things for the environment. Because a lot of what we learned in college was we learned all the doom and gloom. We learned all the damage that was being done, but we didn't really learn what we could do about it. So we went about our professional lives. Nick was working in the Forest Service, cutting down clearings in a swamp for elk that wouldn't ever really inhabit that area. It was seemingly pointless. And I was working with kids, which was great, but I was like, I want a bigger circle of influence. Fast forward a few years, it started to be kind of the culminating of minds. So I was a naturalist seasonally, and Nick ended up being an arborist, trying to do good things. And the more we wanted to do with food, it kind of was extending out. It was a snowball effect. We wanted to do more and more and more. Until finally in 2017, we bought 5 acres, just under 5 acres, north of Princeton. And we moved in May, and by the last week in May, the garden, that was all lawn. The garden was tilled up because I was like, I'm not cutting this grass anymore. And the animal structures were built, and there were still boxes to unpack. And we had our priorities straight, right? And we started this idea of this is the life that we wanted to make for ourselves. And then the more we were talking to people, the more we realized that there were other crazy people like us. And so the amount of produce that we could grow was expanding, and we were trying new things. Every year I had a garden goal. Like the first year I wanted so badly to grow a pumpkin to make pumpkin pie. But guess what? Pumpkin pie from pumpkins doesn't taste good. Like, I have a good recipe pad, I gotta follow that look. It's like, and I found out you can use butternut squash. It's the same thing. Libby's doesn't even use pumpkin. They use the Hubbard squash, or Libby squash. Yeah, I found that out. And the ducklings came on June 6th. I was actually supposed to be the first day that I was starting my new season at one of the nature centers, and I had to call my supervisor and be like, so I have to miss training because I have ducklings coming in the mail. Don't think they ever heard that excuse before, but she knew me, so it was all right. Oh my God, I'm getting too far away. Look it. It's fighting. And so the things that we were growing were just the color of the rainbow. You saw that picture before where it's like zucchini and carrots and a couple of duck eggs and beans. We were growing all of the colors of the rainbow. It was so much fun. And the more we talked about it with people, the more people were like, wow, you grow that kind? And talking more about people in our professional realm. Oh, he's gonna fight me. I can't. Ugh. Okay. And our ducks started laying, and we were just surrounded by abundance. So we're on 5 acres. We don't use that 5, and here we are surrounded by food. And we're working 40 hours a week. We're commuting an hour each way every day. Nick was commuting a little bit more at times. And we made it work. You want to click the next one? It's going to fight you too. Ha! It's not just me. Aha! And here's a picture of just every day. I came home from work and we played in the garden and my son was there and the ducks were running around, and this was the life that we were creating. A lot of people see that, oh, it's too much work, I can't do this. I need to be on farm 100% of the time, and I don't want an off-farm job. But we were doing it. It was making it work.
We were using our resources. All these wood chips actually came from that day, me working with the tree company I was working with at that time. What she doesn't tell you is back behind this wood chip here, wood chip pile, there's ruts probably...
No, it's right there. It's right next to my carrots.
Probably about that deep. Because we had already had wood chips and stuff going in there, so they were decomposing. There was some nice black soil on there. I decided to back a F550 with dualies in there and stop, and I dumped the chips and I couldn't get out.
It was like 4 inches from my carrots. That's why I'm digging the carrots up in that
So
corner.
if you were taking a picture, you were seeing black soil, and then below that was the soil that was already there. So even in just almost a year being there, we were already building soil doing that.
Yeah, that was our first growing season. We already had good black dirt up on top. And so I want you to think of, we are a farm. What images or what pictures do you form in your mind when you hear the word farm?
Rows of corn.
You hear cows. What was it?
Rows of corn.
Rows of corn, monocultures.
Combines.
Combines, heavy equipment. So cows, sheep maybe, kind of. Or maybe you think of really good fresh food when you think of coming from a farm. There's a lot of like farm fresh and farm produced, and a lot of they're throwing that word around lately. Maybe you think of equipment, these huge heavy machines running through monocultures. Really truly, when most people hear the word farm, this is what they picture. Big house, big barns, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of monocropping, huge areas. And a side. There you go. There you go. It's there, right there. What does a land need to, don't click yet.
Click the wrong button.
What does a piece of land need to be a farm?
Good soil.
Maybe good soil?
A farmer.
A what?
A farmer.
A farmer?
Yeah.
Good sun.
Do you listen to Joel Salatin's stuff?
No.
Gosh darn it. Well, I stole this from Joel Salatin. A farm just needs a farmer. Somebody who's touching and developing. Yeah.
Smart ass.
A piece of land just needs a farmer touching the land, cultivating that land, interacting with it. So that takes our idea of what a farm is from this normal farm to something like this.
I don't know how to do
This
that.
next pic.
Sorry.
So this is Will Allen. He runs an aquaponics company in Milwaukee, in like the heart of the city called Growing Power. This is a farm. Even if you were an urban garden or an urban community plot, that's a farm. If you look at a market garden or anything, it's a farm. If there's people interacting with the land and cultivating and nurturing it and developing it, it is a farm. So that brings us to us and you're fired. That brings us to us, Naturalist Farmstead, which, who are we, what are we? We are a small, education-focused, regenerative farm. Small is easy. We're under 5 acres. We don't really use the terms micro farm or mini farm, or we just don't assign a size because we don't need it.
We are what we are. Education focus is us doing what we're doing now. Helping inform people, and we'll get more to that later. And regenerative is a huge focus of ours. So we'll get a little bit into what that means. Whoa. But first, buzzword that everywhere, sustainable. So in your opinion, what does sustainable mean?
Thinking about the future, using resources for others to be able to use too.
Okay. So the definition of sustainable is to be able to maintain at a certain level. So you don't get better, you don't get worse, you just maintain that status quo. So everything is, you hear with stuff trying to be sustainable. You want to make business sustainable, you want to make farms sustainable, you want to make a life sustainable. There's no really necessarily benefit. You're not getting better, you're not getting worse. So we focus on regenerative.
Which, right now, we have done, as a whole planet, so much damage that we can't afford sustainable. We can't afford to not change. Keeping things the exact same is still gonna end us in a pretty bad boat. So we look at regenerative.
So your definition of sustainable is a lot more how we view regenerative, which is viewed as to change for, or change radically and for the better. And that's what we're trying to do with our farm. So a lot of the systems we have in place are meant to make impacts that change for the better. So the initial impacts might seem very, very drastic. So using our pigs as basically 4-trotter plows, instead of tilling stuff under, everything like that, we use them to plow up a lot of our areas. So this was a paddock example of before the pigs were in there. So a lot of the understory is like Virginia creeper and poison ivy and buckthorn and,
You know, the lovelies.
yeah, excessive box elder saplings and stuff like that. So stuff that would be nuisances in many people's opinion.
In our first year, I didn't go into our woods until December because there was so much poison ivy that I'm very, very allergic to it, and I was nervous to go in my woods. That was so dumb, like so dumb.
So this was after they were in there 3 days.
Wow.
So it looks bad. It looks like they just destroyed everything, which they didn't destroy everything. We view it as hitting a reset button. So they're disrupting the cycles of those buckthorns. So they'll plow up so much that I can literally go and grab a buckthorn that's 1 inch in diameter and just pull it out by the roots.
How many of you have tried to pull buckthorn out of the ground? How easy is it?
It's
Easy.
Depends on the soil. I mean,
That's
there's some
true.
very forgiving
It's all
soil.
sand.
That's
Well,
true.
we do have sandy loam, so it helps.
Yeah, I know.
But,
Please.
but also what they're doing is they're bringing latent seeds from lower down in the seed bank up to the surface. So the first paddock that we had them in, 2 weeks after we moved them out, we were having sedges and grasses come up that we hadn't seen the first 1.5 years that we were in there, because everything was choking it out.
How many pigs?
We had 5 pigs, and when they went through here the first time, they were
They were little, they were like 20, 30 pounds.
yeah, they were only a couple months old.
You can kind of see them back here. That's a 55-gallon water drum, so that maybe kind of gives you a size of about.
That pig's only about 3 feet away from that, so.
Yeah.
Pig's immune system react to poison ivy?
No,
Only
So-
humans.
they are not allergic to the uracil. They actually would go and eat the leaves, and they would dig down and get the roots.
Wow.
Yeah, it's only selective for humans. We're the
Yeah.
only ones that react to it, everything else can eat it. Go figure.
Right.
And another way that we are trying to regenerate is, in addition to our 2,000 square foot annual garden, we also plant a lot of perennial stuff. So in here, there's a lot of pollinator stuff. There's like daisies and,
Anise, hyssop,
thank you, I think the anise is up.
comfrey,
That's a comfrey way in the right-hand corner. And
we have
that's,
bee balm, borage.
and there's also fruit production in here. We have little chokeberries in the front here, bigger chokeberries, service berries. all kinds of berries. It's one joy about living in zone 4 is you can grow all kinds of berries. You can't do that in a lot of southern climates. And we are using areas that were problematic in ways that make them not so problematic. So permaculture, another buzzword, anybody familiar with permaculture? So a big permaculture saying is the problem is the solution. So this area here, when we moved in, there was a brick wall, a brick half wall right here, and our roof is up here, and all the water comes down right where all these are planted. And
We have a
before-
metal roof, so it goes fast.
Yeah, it goes quick. So when we moved in, it was just grass. So we'd get rain and water would pool and it would come on our slab over here.
Get down in our basement.
You know, and in the winter, it just created a skating rink when we're trying to walk out our front door. So what we did is we got rid of the grass, got rid of the wall. This is a little different here than it is now, but we brought in some compost, some wood chips, and planted stuff, and we used all that runoff to water the plants.
This area too, it was southern facing, and with all that thermal holding capacity, with all the stone and the brick wall, we used it, that's actually a sweet potato. We got sweet potatoes in zone 4A. Pretty sweet, and peppers.
And our peppers are amazing.
Yeah. So we're using those little microclimates where it was a problem to, okay, what can we use this for?
We tried putting in some Russian sage for a little bit of pollinator stuff, and it's a little bit of a deterrent for some critters. Those didn't survive. You know, they don't like being snow piled on them in the winter.
No.
And we don't just change everything that we have. So in here, the 4 plants around are black raspberry plants that were already there. That black currant was already there. So all we did was kind of take down some of the stuff we don't want. There were some box elder sprouts, a little bit of poison ivy here, and a lot of just kind of stuff that's not beneficial. There's no flowers, no nothing, and we decided to mulch on top of it. So we put down straw. Where did the straw come from? Was it just...
The straw was used to bed our duck tractor in the wintertime. So it was too hot. So that means there's too much ammonia in it to go right on the garden because it came from bird poop. And so we used that with the straw on a natural system.
It worked, it didn't work. We only put down like 3 inches of straw. If you're gonna use straw, it's gotta be like 10 inches to a
Yeah.
foot.
But we tried.
Yeah, so this ended up being retaken by everything because we didn't mulch it enough, so live and learn. And we had a fence around here thinking, trying to keep stuff out. This is actually an orchard area that we planted. Keep out small critters, rabbits, that kind of thing.
Found out rabbits jump through chicken wire.
Yep, little rabbits were running right through it,
Didn't even stop.
you know, so that's not there anymore.
What do you mean through? Like under?
No, like
No,
literally
like
through the
jumping
chicken
through
wire.
the holes of the chicken wire. I don't know how they did it. They defied bunny physics.
Yeah.
They're more,
Yeah.
they're more like weasels than.
Yeah.
So we don't just completely redo everything from scratch, we try and use what's there. Likewise, this is an area, that's Ranger.
Yeah. I was gonna say spot the curl.
No, everywhere. So he's kind of hiding over there. This is an area that we are leaving for wildlife. There'll be more in the next picture
Like
about it.
up here.
So, we can start with this one and go back. We'll just bring it up on the screen. So, we have 4.89 acres, but really truly, we only use about 2 of it for what we do. And really only 1.5 acres of that is actually in production, because up above the house right here is just kind of dead zone, it's hard to do a whole lot with.
We rotate the ducks through it, but that's about
Right.
it.
But a lot of ours, the northern part, is left for wildlife. And that's where this comes in, is these are mushroom logs that we did in the spring. Another joy of being an arborist is I have access to very good wood for doing mushroom logs. So these are oak that were harvested 2-3 weeks before, something
Yeah.
like that.
You want it to dry a little bit.
Yep. So we spent the morning putting these together, and they literally just sat out there. We put them out there, covered them, let them go, and did not
And with how wet the spring was, like, we didn't have to worry about running stuff back.
Yeah.
But when we decided where to put these, we remembered where we were walking in our woods and we found natural mushrooms popping up all over the place. So we already knew, okay, fungus likes this spot, let's use that for the ones that we want to do. And actually, what's really cool is the ones that are covered with a bag, they are lion's mane. The ones that are not are shiitake. They got covered with the bag, but just to distinct them. And we're not supposed to get lion's mane mushrooms for 18 to 20 months. We did this spring. We got our first lion's mane mushroom at the end of this summer.
We had our first lion's mane mushroom grow, and then it
Didn't get
disappeared. So something else got it.
Right. That's okay, we'll share.
Right. That's a part of the use of the wildlife. Sure, there's plenty there. So again, we don't use all of our acreage for production. That's,
And this summer, we've seen such an explosion of wildlife around our yard. And I can't say for sure it's exactly because we've been doing A, B, C, and D. It's just an observation that we've had. So we have bluebirds everywhere. You can't walk anywhere in our yard without being able to spot at least 3 gray tree frogs. Like they're just there.
our son pointed them out to me if you can't find them.
Yeah, and my son would go and say, oh my gosh, can we go and get salamanders out of the frog pit? Okay, it's our egress window. Get the bucket, there's like 15 salamanders, put them in the woods, salamander in heaven. Like, we had so many different species of wildlife that we weren't seeing before. There were butterflies that I had never seen before. I'm not a lepidopterist. It's just insane. And then we could look at our anise hyssop and see 4 different types of bees. Just crazy amounts of diversity. Are you gonna talk about this because you love this picture?
Again, I use this picture in everything.
Yeah, he
Absolutely,
does.
I absolutely love this picture. She didn't know I was taking it. But this is actually a wild plum tree that we didn't know was there. We were clearing out buckthorn and stuff like that. We just happened to stop at a certain area.
About a foot away from this tree.
Yeah. And really truly, wild plum, if you're not paying attention, the bark looks a lot like buckthorn. So there's a good chance that this would have just been cut down if you weren't paying attention. And you must have just released it, or the pressure, the
amount of disturbance in the area kind of hit a little like woohoo button for that
trying to
plum
think
tree.
the chemical inhibition.
I don't know, you're the tree gatherer.
We'll get back to it. But releasing bits from buckthorn and the little stuff around it must have just helped it thrive, because we got
20 gallons.
20 gallons of plums off of this the year after we cleared around it. We didn't know it was there for the first year and a half that we were there.
It was hidden. We find it.
So that's a good example of you don't need to start everything from scratch. Take a little bit and see what's there. You never know where you're going to find.
So the different animals that we run in systems, we have ducks that we run on the edges of our woods. And I'll tell you a secret, I'm actually pretty lazy and I hate picking up poop. I worked in a stable in high school, I'm done picking up poop. So we run this in a system where I don't have to pick up the poop because it is somewhere where it is beneficial. So our ducks run around the edge of the woods, and we have the electric netting to keep other critters out, neighborhood dogs, anything like that that's electrified. If you touch it, it hurts. And we have a guard goose. So this guard goose goes around anything that comes from the air, will make a big god-awful noise, spread the wings, ducks will follow, and we also, I think part of it, that we've never had eagle trouble, because we have eagles around, and eagles have totally taken out some of the birds around our neighborhood. But we also have trumpeter swans on the lake by our house. Eagle sees big white bird, says, yeah, no thanks, and keeps flying. And then we can kind of see the corner of it, but that's our latest version of a duck tractor, which basically means it's a housing structure that moves with the birds. Version 3, I think, live and learn.
And we have noticed, especially this year, when we really move them around the entire perimeter of our yard, we've had basically no tick pressure.
Yeah.
And then once we move them to their winter area, where they're just kind of set because we can't get the stakes in the ground with electric netting, we've found a few more ticks on Ranger and stuff like
That's
that,
undrawn.
so, yeah.
Yeah, and we have them for eggs. So really truly, we're not raising the birds for meat necessarily, it's mainly for eggs. Which if later you wanna come up and guess which birds those eggs come from, I challenge you to do that.
And another thing is these guys act a little bit kind of like the pigs do, they're not as destructive, but all this vegetation, all the green, not all of it, most of it will be knocked down or eaten or torn asunder. And that helps, because there's poison ivy and stuff in here, and they'll trample that down and keep it down so we don't have to worry about that kind of thing. And then once they're gone, after their poop and stuff decomposes a little bit, stuff.
It explodes.
Yeah, it's impressive.
So can I,
Yeah.
ask you, so you said you are raising them for the eggs.
Mhm.
What made you decide on ducks rather than chickens?
So we picked ducks. I'll be honest, the one was like, ooh, ducks are way cuter than chickens. But also, there was a practical reason too. Also, so duck eggs are bigger than chicken eggs. Ducks don't need artificial heat in the wintertime. So they're not ones that will get cold because they have those waterproof feathers. They also are herdable. So when we get our netting down, we also have chickens. But when we drop our netting, the ducks move as a pack, and if they wander into the woods, all I have to do is say, go duck, go duck, go duck, go duck, and I'll hear Giesel fire off, and I can see where they are, and they're very easy to move. Chickens, they need artificial heat in the wintertime. They don't lay as consistently in the wintertime, and when you want them to go in a certain place, like, okay, we're going into here, they dive headlong into the thickest brush that they can find.
We have
Sworn at many a chicken.
We have 15 chickens now, there's only 3 in here, and the first time we decided to move all of them, the whole clump, the ducks and the chickens, across the property.
It took us like 3 hours.
Yeah, we couldn't get all the chickens in. We finally just said, forget it, and we left them, and then once we saw them around the fencing, trying to get back in, we picked them up.
We do have chickens now because they do more of the work that we want them to do. So they have that scratching behavior. In the ducks in the wintertime, they would go and I would throw the straw for them, and their big duck feet would pat everything down and poop on it. So there's this layer of good warm bedding underneath a layer of smushed poopy straw. The chickens, I can throw grain down in there and they're bedding flippers. So they conserve the amount of straw that we have to use, which also means that we can use them in an area that we really want disturbed. So there was, Nick had a new tree planting area that was getting kind of grassy and he was trying to keep plants suppressed. So he dumped the grain right on it and they scratched and disturbed the area more.
It was actually the area right around that wild plum we had the picture of. We just planted some more fruit trees around there to try and do some guild perennial plantings.
We also have, obviously, pigs. So these are our 5 pigs. They're actually rooting up the area that we forestry mulched this spring, wanting to do a prairie planting. And about a week after that, it all exploded back up. And we're like, oh, we're gonna have to hand do all this crap. So what we did is we let the pigs into this area where we weren't planning on having them. And they basically leveled the ground so that we could go through, and with a little extra work of pulling the big woody stuff out, we could frost seed a native prairie pollinator mix. This is just a picture of, so we started them off when they were itty bitty, and we started them in a piglet pen because we trained them to electric fence. And we had to have a permanent barrier on the outside of the electric barrier because they can physically move through that fence. It's a psychological barrier. They hit it, they hurt, and they learn to move away instead of bust through. So you can see we have the other paddocks already set up there for once they got a little bit bigger. Plus, we have neighborhood dogs where our corgi is benign as can be, but at this size, they could still be depredated. Oh,
For sure.
there you go, prey to pound.
Predated.
There we go. And I just have another cute picture of a pig. Doing what they do. Loving, digging their face in. As soon as you would let them into a new area, they would be up to their ears in the dirt, just like boom, gone. So funny.
They're about 275 pounds now, and they still do it with the frozen ground. So they're impressive.
Yeah. This is another example of, you can see that this is all that's keeping them in. So we have 5 pigs. They run really fast. When they get startled, they go vroom, and they are gone.
Excited in general.
Right. We only had 1 pig get out. Well, 2 pigs get out twice.
The last time was because I wasn't paying attention and there was actually a log on top of the fence. So once decided just hop over and go browsing around. But we have a perimeter fence around all of our paddocks also. So she got out of the paddock but not out of the whole area. So they're still contained, you have to worry about them causing issues with the neighbors or anything like that.
And these pigs get to live the life that they want to live, and we will get delicious bacon for it come December. So we get this honest, humane food, knowing that these animals live the life that they were meant to.
Happy job well done, piggy pile.
Yeah. We also have quail, so we run our quail in an aviary, and we just put down new layers of wood chips in here when it gets too covered in feces. We did originally run them in a tractor in the orchard. This year we learned that raccoons really like quail, and we lost about 40 quail, so we're like, we're just gonna keep them in here for the summer, just because I don't want to tempt Mr. Raccoon again. And we keep our quail for eggs. So little tiny eggs like that, they're really good.
We don't have any because they don't like the cold.
No, they
So
don't.
they
They're
don't start
like,
laying once it gets about 50 degrees.
they moved into the farm though. And then education focused. We make a lot of mistakes, and we're very open about the mistakes that we make because we want people to learn from our mistakes. If we can skip that step for them, and so like, don't do a flat duck tractor on a bumpy lawn, you're gonna kill your back, or those different examples there. If we can talk about things and get people excited about food, it becomes a lot more accessible. So here we have getting kids excited about the different animals that we have and where food comes from, what a cauliflower head looks like. Go get the eggs. The kids love getting eggs. You lose a couple because they drop them sometimes, but it's okay. And they live and they learn, and the more that they're around food production, the better. And so we're trying to get people to our farm, learning how to grow food or interact with their land in a more connective way. And we're always trying new things. This is maple syrup that, hint, hint, is the best maple syrup here. Just saying. May or may not be in the competition. But I don't know, it may be. But we're always trying new things. We're always expanding and learning. And like this year was the first year that we not only hatched eggs, but we tried turkeys. And I have 20 turkeys coming for next year because we love these 2. And they're going to be on our Thanksgiving table, but they were a joy to have.
They come when called.
Yes, they do.
come when not called. But
They come when you don't want them to come. It's kind of fun. And then we want people to have more of those connections with food. So we got stuck in the trap of, well, we'll start a farm when we buy a house, and the house has to have this many acres, and it's got to have woods, and we were looking for a house for over a year. And if you have room for a 20-inch pot, you can do it. We want to remove that barrier of it's too much work. I don't have enough space. I'll wait till I'm this. I'll wait till I have this or do that. You don't have to. It's very accessible.
there's rosemary, there's thyme, there's edible flowers in here, and this actually
everything
changed
here
this
is
year
edible.
from an annual pot to a perennial. So I actually have a very small chokeberry plant planted in there with chives around it and mint and all kinds of stuff in there that will just come back again next year. Just putting a little bit of compost or something on there, it'll keep going. 20-inch pot.
And so why did we name ourselves Naturalist Farmstead? Why not Blue House in the Woods? Why not Ranger's Acres or Bowley Farmstead, things like that? And it comes down to why I love the field that we're all in. And maybe it was because I love working with kids or love being outside, or maybe I just wanted to play in the woods and get paid for it. But what I really love is I love seeing all the interconnections and the inner workings of systems. When you do a pond study, you see a little glimpse of how that system works. When you see a garden, you're seeing how that little microsystem works. I love seeing all those interactions. And I truly believe that the more people connect and interact with the planet that we're living with, the better things will be. Like, we're losing that connection. We need to bring that connection back down to the dirt, which is why I'm kneeling on dirt. I want that connection. We need that stronger connection. And so often in this field, we get stuck in this cycle. I know I did, of like, am I a naturalist? I'm not a naturalist. Am I a naturalist? That seasonal cycle of, I've heard people here saying, well, I'm not a naturalist now. Yes, you are. It's in the interactions that I have with my son all the time. The interactions, can you switch the side? That was that. The interactions that we have with people, we are always naturalists because of how we interact with people and how we interact with our planet. And that's why we are Naturalist Farmstead. And really, truly, my hope is that people realize that their small actions not only can make a difference to the people that they're around or the systems that they're on, but that their small actions already are making a difference. So if you have any questions, you can ask questions about systems or what we do. We have a big display of the property design, some of the books that we have learned a lot from. There were a lot more books, but I didn't want to carry them.
Who you like better, Wendell Berry or Joel Salatin?
I like them for different reasons.
But who's better?
You had to choose.
Yep.
I think lately I've been connecting more with Joel Salatin because he is such an assertive personality. And I am not, by default, I can be loud, but I'm not necessarily a assertive personality. So his You Can Farm and Your Profitable Farm business of changing how I interact with people and how I talk. So I'll pick Joel Salatin for me right now.
Talks the talk and walks the walk.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what do you do with your excess food? Because that abundance there, you must have more than you.
We do. So with the produce, we give it to our neighbors. We preserve some of it. How many gallon bags of tomatoes do I have in the freezer this year? Like 15,
Yeah.
maybe 20.
You're freeze dry.
That takes time.
Yeah.
So in summer camp season, how am I preserving food? Shove it in the freezer.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about time management. With our eggs, we sell our eggs. And with our pork, we sell our pork because we can't eat fried pigs. So we're trying to share that food with other families because we know how it was raised and that's what we feed our family.
And our animals. Like our ducks love the greens, stuff like that. Our pigs will eat anything except zucchini.
Yeah.
They don't
What the
like
heck?
I
zucchini.
sympathize.
The one thing I need to get rid of. Oh, yeah.
What is the education part of your farm look like? Is it like kind of freelance classes where people just come, or is it like neighborhood kids?
So we do a mentorship program where people, if they want to live some part of the life that we are living, or if they want some type like Nick's done a land management for pollinators or garden consults, trying to get kids involved in the garden. So we go to other people's property that way. We have on-farm events, like we did a bat box workshop this summer. We did an open farm day, trying to get more people to the farm. And we also do, oh gosh, what am I blanking on? I'm missing something. Mentorship program.
Presentations.
Yeah. Hi. Right there. So that's how we're starting the education part of our farm. Mhm. Yeah.
You ever do goats? Or thought about goats?
We started out as, when we were moving to our property, we were going to be Renegade Farm, so we were going to get goats. Our logo was a goat. And we moved up there and decided, well, I want a lot of fruit trees. I don't want goats, because they just destroy everything.
But when we were first married, you agreed however many chainsaws you have, I get goats.
At the
I
time-
will cash in eventually.
At the time, my livelihood wasn't based on having chainsaws.
Doesn't matter.
My defense.
Agreed. You agreed to it. We're getting goats eventually.
So
It's happening.
with our land base, we decided to kind of go other routes, but yes, goats are probably in the future.
Yeah.
And they will kind of do what the pigs do with nuisance
You
control
saw
and
a lot
stuff
of
like that.
buckhorn
Yeah.
A lot less, but you know how buckthorn is, we cut it down and it came back as a bush.
I didn't pull everything up by the roofs, that's a lot of work. So yes, there will be goats.
And thank you for sitting in on it, and I hope we didn't get too long-winded or yeah.
I just have one more question.
Yeah.
What does the chore split up look like?
Depends on the year,
Yeah.
depends on the season.
Right.
This week's been crazy, so it's been basically in the mornings I've been doing the animal chores, that kind of thing, which, because we have our system set up, as long as waters and stuff are taken care of, waters might take 45 minutes if I have to do everybody and they're frozen. But our morning chores generally take me about 15 minutes, giving everybody food, that kind of thing, because of how we have stuff set up.
He gets the outside critters right now, and I get our inside critters.
But for the most part, throughout the year, it's split up fairly evenly.
Usually on the weekends, like I'll go out and I'll do them because I miss them. I miss going out and I'll give Big Pig a scratch or tell Friendly Pig to lay down and I can scratch her belly.
Who's doing stuff today?
Me. I did it this morning. Like I said, it took 15 minutes because I made sure everything.
Yeah.
Well, you did waters and stuff yesterday,
Mhm.
so before she took off up here, so that helped. So 15 minutes and I was basically ready to go. 'Cause I had other things I had to do this morning too.
Yeah, I'm
Already
glad
done
you
a lot.
remembered.
Already done a lot of driving.
Yeah. Well, and we're only an hour away from here, so it was not that much of a drive. No, really, truly, we try and design our systems so that they are easy and they don't have a lot of work.
We're secretly, not so secretly, very lazy.
We're the most unconvincing lazy people you probably ever met. But we are. Go back to the picking up poop thing. No, nope, not the deal.
But if anybody else has any questions after time's up, we'll be around for a little bit. You can come up, have conversations, check everything out up here.
Yeah. We do have, so we have an email sign-up list or a phone sign-up list. If you want to really get to know some of the things that we offer, we do like a 15-minute phone call of whatever you want, all of your hopes and dreams for what you have access to. So the email sign-up is right over there. We have some of our information of how we do our pork, and if you can guess what type of eggs those are.
She already showed you the duck egg.
Hey, hey.
But thank you very much for everybody.